Good morning. I hope that you all can see me and hear me. If not, then you have the chat button under there. You can write your comments there. We are about to start. My name is Christina. I'm head of sales at One Office Group. And as it is quite stressful and interesting times, then we decided to throw this webinar in order to show our support to new entrepreneurs and also those who already have existing businesses. So starting from the very beginning. I have also here Varun joining later on, and this is what we will cover today. We speak about why is a remote company good, especially nowadays. What are the options in order to start remote business? And also we try to give some suggestions for those who already do the business. As I already mentioned in the chat tab, you can write all your questions there in the questions section, and we will cover everything as the last part. And I will give now over to Varun, who is going to speak about why is having a remote company a good option, especially nowadays. So 1 second, I will share the screen with Varun, and here we go. So Varun.
Hello.
Yes, I can see you, I can hear you. So go ahead.
Perfect, great. Thanks a lot, Christina, for that introduction. So I'm glad to be here. And yeah, I thought I'll just share some insights about why it's relevant to have a remote company, and even more so right now. In fact, just to start off with, with a little joke, I saw a meme this morning on social media where it said, who led the digital transformation in your company, the CEO, the CTO, or COVID-19? You know, so for a lot of companies now, the only way that they can really work is remotely, and this is also leading to a digital transformation across the board. But to go a little bit deeper, I run my company remotely now, which is based in Estonia. And it makes it very easy for me to move around, digitally sign documents which are legally valid, declare my taxes online, do digital banking transactions using solutions like TransferWise and Payoneer. Depending on what I'm doing, I use either or. And so everything just becomes easier. And especially now, I realize I've had friends and other people who've asked me a number of times, why, how I'm able to kind of manage everything, considering business is slowed down, clients are suffering, etc. So I'll just go over some of those points. I'll just minimize this, and here we go. So why a remote company? Firstly, starting a company remotely, the whole process is digital. It's online, so it's very simple and it's quite straightforward. You can access company creation tools through the online portals for the UK or for other places. I think One Office has them too. Of course, you save a lot of money and you save time. Because everything's online, firstly, you save money because it's cheaper for the services that you're using, like accounting, bookkeeping, etc., for people to actually implement a solution. So the cost for the service provider is cheaper. And so obviously it ends up being cheaper for you as well. And of course, since you're doing everything online and you can be remote, you can multitask. And also you can obviously save time instead of going to a bureau or an office somewhere, declaring a tax, or I don't know, doing some other bureaucratic paperwork. It's just easy. All of this, of course, makes it easier to start the business. As far as I know, in most cases, also in Estonia, where I'm running the company, the cost of actually establishing your company is lower than doing it in places and jurisdictions where the cost may be higher. Like Germany, I know is quite high in terms of the startup capital needed, etc. It's quite efficient in terms of administering. So what this means is, if you need to receive some mail, even, you can have a virtual office service, or you can declare your taxes, like I said, online, or you can do board decisions. So at times, if you have multiple shareholders, I don't, but I know people who do. They can actually do all their board decisions remotely because they're all based in different parts of the world, but they can still, kind of do everything remotely. And of course, this is a big one for me. So having a company actually separates your income, and that's great because, for example, since my company is considered a resident business in Estonia, I can differentiate between my corporate income. So let's imagine that I earn 10,000 euros a month, and I don't have to declare taxes on the 10,000 euros because, for example, in Estonia, there's no tax on reinvested profits or undistributed income. So there's only tax paid when you actually distribute profits or dividends. And until that happens, I can separate that income as the income of my business, because depending on where I am, so currently I'm in India during this lockdown, and since I'm here right now, I might only need, I don't know, 2,000 euros or 3,000 euros a month. And the rest of the 7,000 I can keep in my business, because when I pay myself 2,000 or 3,000 euros and I'm based in a certain place, I might have to declare taxes locally. So why should I pay, I don't know, let's imagine 30% tax on 10,000 euros versus 30% tax on 3,000 euros, which is really what I need for my own income. Also, separating this business and personal income, it can be quite useful because, for example, when I needed to fly, so I'm actually based in Estonia for the time being, and when I needed to fly from Estonia to India 2 weeks ago, then I bought my flight tickets through my company, because it was also a business expense since I'm coming here and I'm working remotely, right? So that made things much easier for me, and obviously I don't pay tax on that. And since I purchased my flight tickets in Europe, I even get back the VAT on it, because that's how companies work. So I end up saving a lot of money on taxes and claiming expenses through my business. Even if I'm traveling to Asia or in Northern Europe, I can claim taxi expenses, stuff like that. So it's quite useful. So yeah, that was my point about expense management. And then, of course, taxation, I already explained. It's important to differentiate between what's personal tax and what's corporate tax. I think that can be quite useful. And it can also be quite useful in terms of separating between liability, because depending on how you're running your business, if you have, let's say, other shareholders too, you obviously don't want to be personally liable as a business if something doesn't work out or goes wrong. And I think that's especially relevant considering what's going on in the world right now. So I know of some contacts of mine who have been registered as freelancers, and right now to pay their expenses, it's become even harder for them, because they can't declare, for example, bankruptcy right now and say that our business is, not capable of paying its expenses, but they're personally liable. So even if they have to pay certain expenses for something, they actually have to declare, that we are insolvent, which is a much worse thing. And obviously, I think most of us understand that that's quite bad. And yeah, so going to a more positive note, digital banking, like I said, I have access to TransferWise, I have access to Payoneer, and these different solutions can allow me to make foreign transfers much cheaper. So TransferWise lets me make transfers from Asia to Europe and Europe to Asia for much lower cost compared to normal bank. I even have bank cards, and with TransferWise, for example, I have a bank card for my company, which is a company account, and then I have a bank card for me personally for my personal expenses. And it's cheaper, more easy to use. They have an app, makes expense tracking, sorting, even bookkeeping for my receipts, etc. I can add them to each transaction as a picture on the app itself. So it just makes everything easier and more efficient for me. And in terms of relevance, I would say yeah, it's relevant for freelancers. So I would say I'm partially doing that, but at the same time, I'm more into growth consulting and business development. So there it's quite relevant for me. It's quite relevant for e-commerce entrepreneurs if you're a drop shipper or an Amazon seller. So I have friends and other people who are doing this right now. Recently, someone asked me that they want to actually run an investment business based out of Spain and do stock trading. And clearly, this can be quite relevant too. And this is something interesting where I think One Office also is able to work with all these different kinds of entrepreneurs, because I know some other service providers only focus on service-related businesses, which might be consulting, marketing, digital advertising, or development. But whenever it comes to physical commodities or investment, or sometimes certain cases even crypto finance, then you might want to get in touch with service providers like One Office. But yeah, I think this is the people that it's relevant for. In essence, if you're doing any kind of business, you registered as a freelancer, or you have an existing company where you have high expenses, high capital costs. Maybe you have, I don't know, 25,000 euros worth of capital that needs to stay locked into your business. Then I would definitely say move over to a more online model, which will help you right now during this crisis, but also eventually have long-term value for you, because once this lockdown ends, which I hope is sooner than later, you need to be very agile and be able to multitask, be able to travel, develop business and do many activities together. And if you constantly need to, I don't know, do some document signing or some paperwork or some other bureaucratic process, it will just slow things down for you. So yeah, for me, this is like a no-brainer, and that's where I'll leave it. Christina, are you still there?
Yes, so 1 second, I will take the floor to myself.
Sure, yeah.
And so let's continue with what options, remote options you have, especially nowadays when people actually can't physically travel to anywhere, but business has to be done. We hope that the economy still doesn't plummet, and that we could actually survive from the situation without having drastic consequences behind that. So the three options that I'm going to speak about are UK, Estonia, and Finland. And these are the jurisdictions where we operate in, and we do know more about these countries. In UK, we don't have to speak about a lot about the large potential market. In UK, you can do everything remotely. There are the unique share capital rules. You can only put £1 to your limited company. Because of that, the personal liability is also limited, which is really important in this situation where people personally are struggling, and if you personally have to also be liable for companies' debts, then this is additional pressure for you. So in all these our jurisdictions, UK, Finland, and Estonia, we are speaking about limited companies where the liability of the owner is also limited, either it's by £1 or 2,500 euros, like in Estonia. As mentioned, all can be done online, so it is remote. You don't have to go anywhere. You can register the company. If everything is okay, then Companies House registers the company in 1 business day. And the setup costs are relatively low compared to Germany or France and so on. And you can run the company remotely. You don't have to physically be anywhere. Why we brought out UK is actually it's possible to start a legal entity right away. There are no preconditions. You don't have to go and apply for the residency card or wait too long to get the company. When you do it in our portal, then there's just a simple form to fill in. You choose services that you need. Either it's the address service that you might need in additionally, and you can also choose between different fintech options. We have Pioneer, we have Neat, we have TransferWise. All of them also open accounts remotely, which means you don't physically you physically don't have to go anywhere. And as mentioned, the registration is in 1 day, and you can see also the setup fee. The setup fee consists of company's house fee, registration, and also the first year of registered office address and director's service address. So the second option is Estonia. Estonia is also can be run online. You can do most of the things digitally. The only prerequisite or precondition is that you would have to have the e-residency card. And when applying for the e-residency card, then you can apply for it online, but in order to collect it, you have to go to the embassy in person, because you have to give a biometric data. It means fingerprints and so on. They identify you and so on. So this precondition to have the e-residency in these circumstances like we have today might be a huge obstacle, because in some countries you can't even travel between cities. But if you already have the residency card, then this is a huge advantage, because you can proceed. And what I say as well, getting e-residency card actually takes about 1 or 2 months, depending on what your location is. So if you have planned to become a e-resident, then it's still good to apply, because then during this time when you wait for the pickup, then you can work on the business model or business plan. In Estonia, we have also a bit different share capital rules. Although the share capital minimum amount is 2,500 euros, it's possible that when you register the company, you don't make the down payment. You, as the owner of the company or the founder, decide when you will do the down payment, and that's why it's called deferred contribution. There is no limitation whether the down payment has to be made in 1 month or 1 year or 10 years. It's all based on your business needs. Only catch is that if the founder hasn't put in the money to the company, they cannot retrieve dividends from there. As mentioned before, personal liability is limited. Everything can be done online. The company registration in Estonia is also within 1 working day. The fastest that we have seen it has been actually in 1 hour. So that's quite exciting, that you can fill the form in the morning, and by noon you actually have the legal entity. In Estonia, the maintenance costs are relatively low, depending compared to other EU countries and even compared to UK. And because of the e-residence and digital signature, then everything that you do online has additional security. So it's very, very secure. Nobody can use your online identity besides yourself if you have the e-residency card and if you have the PIN codes. So this is the overview of Estonia. Precondition is to have the e-residency card. If you have it, then you can fill in the form. You can add services and fintech options like in the UK, TransferWise, Pioneer, and Neat. And you just need to sign, and then company gets registered. And the setup fee 555 is it's included the state fee. There's the company registration and also the contact person and the legal address for first year. And moving on to Finland. In Finland, I would have to say that this is a bit tricky jurisdiction, because still Finland loves paperwork. but because we launched our company registration portal in December, then now we can provide Finnish company registration also online. Only thing is that it takes a bit more time than in other countries. But Finland is has a really good economy. It's a stable Nordic country. From July 2019, Finland also changed its share capital rules. If previously you also had to contribute 2,500 euros right away when you registered the company, then now you can actually say that the share capital is 0 euros and you don't have to pay it in at all. In the portal, the process is easy. There are some questions that you have to answer, and although Finland loves paperwork, then all this paperwork can actually be done remotely, even without an authorized power of attorney. And in Finland, we have also one thing that entrepreneurs have to take into account. This is that they have to decide on management structure. In Finland, there has to be minimum 3 board members, and one of them has to be EU resident or European Economic Area resident. There is also option that there will be 2 board members. One is the board member, one is the deputy, but then both of them have to be from EU or EU residents. The portal works the same way. It's filling the form, choosing address service and other services that you need, and fintech options. But with Finnish companies, OÜ is the limited company in Finland, the registration times depend on the registry. It can be 3 to 5 weeks, but in certain times it can be even up to 2 months. So it's all depending what the business registry in Finland is doing. And the setup fee is the business registry fee, state fee again, which is quite high. It's already 380 euros, and the registration itself, and also the first year of legal address, that is also mandatory. If you're speaking about UK, Estonia, Finland, then in all these countries the company has to have local address, and that's why we have brought out here the address option. And here's also a short or very basic overview of what the other slides covered, and compared to UK, Estonia, and Finland. The new information is perhaps below in minimum maintenance costs. So you'll see that if you have the company but don't have very much activity, what would be the annual maintenance costs in kind of like dormant or very small company case. Because we are sharing the recording as well, then later on you can review the slides and take more time. All right, so now I will switch on to, I will give floor again back to Varun, who is going to speak about restructuring. And after that, we will go to the measures of these different countries. So bear with me 1 second. Here you go, Varun.
Great. Thanks a lot, Christina. All right, perfect. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Perfect.
Can see and
Great.
can hear.
Okay, perfect. So just going on, as I'd already briefly mentioned, the part about restructuring. Well, especially right now, clearly, I already know of some businesses which were incurring heavy operational costs, being based in different countries. I know that there are countries which are offering fiscal stimulus, etc. But for a lot of people, it's still not enough to cover their general maintenance costs for the company itself. And in any case, some businesses have decided already that they would like to diversify into other fields of business. And for them, the only way that they can really do that right now, because they're using, let's say, their own skills even as individuals, is to have a flexible, low-cost model So a digital company which is based in a location where they can actually establish and manage everything online, especially considering that we're all under lockdown right now. So yeah, a digital format of a business is the best way to kind of move forward right now. And I think it also offers a couple of other opportunities. So one is, even if later something happens, you at least have a plan B that you can kind of execute on, and it's easy for you to kind of scale that very quickly. And of course, if you already have a business and a company that's running remotely, then it becomes much easier once all of this lockdown starts to end for you to gain, let's say, a competitive advantage and try and really make your business grow big by focusing more on the core activity of your business and less on administering it, taxation, I don't know, some areas of taxes that you might have, which you'll eventually incur as a part of this lockdown, because you may not want to pay them now. If you do it right now, you will obviously start conserving monetary resources. Let's imagine that you have, I don't know, 10,000 euros or something invested in a business right now. Free up your capital, take that money, invest it somewhere right now where you feel, I don't know, certain stocks that might be going up, or even, I know some examples there, people have bought Bitcoin because the value they're estimating is will go up once this lockdown ends. So you can do all of these different activities depending on what you'd like to do, and do your market research. And of course, the digital company, easier to establish. Start now, so that in a month or whatever time it takes, depending on what option you're choosing, you have the possibility to at least start your company and get moving. Cheaper to manage, like I already mentioned. And the whole idea, I think, that all of us need to have right now is, while business may have slowed down, this is the perfect opportunity for us to internally try and structure our business, not just administratively, but even, let's say, if you want to implement some other new technologies which you think would help your customer flow become better in the future, do all of that right now. It might involve a little bit more investment, but this lockdown will end eventually, and when it does, then you should be in a place where you can gain a competitive advantage and move really quickly over your competitors. And I think that's where the restructuring part also forms a part of the whole big picture. So yeah, over to you, Christina. That's all I had to say on this.
Thank you. So, one moment. I will change this. Change slides, and now we are going. We reach to measures. So we are speaking about measures in Estonia, UK, and Finland. I'm sure that if you're a business owner somewhere else, then the government there is also doing something in order to support entrepreneurs and businesses. But in Estonia, the measures that have been decided on are the following, and there are a lot of discussions to introduce additional measurements. So the only thing with Estonia is that there isn't one specific website where you can get all the information, what kind of support you can get. They are like thrown all over different places, like government website, Credex website, tax office, and so on. But these are the main ones that we know of. And to our own clients, we also try to inform if there are some new measures that might be really important. So first of all, government is actually supporting entrepreneurs and businesses to pay salaries. There are some conditions that the company has to meet. There are three things. Workload has to decrease more than 30%. The turnover of the company has to decrease 30% compared to the last year's March. And also, if you don't have work to give to the employees, that you decrease the employees' salaries. So these all are quite drastic conditions and drastic measures. If a company has to actually decrease employees' salaries, then it means that the situation is pretty difficult and complicated. And here we don't have good options in that sense. But if a company sees that turnover has dropped more than 30%, they don't have work to give to employees, and they are forced to decrease the salary amounts, then they can opt for government support. And the support, the idea of the support is that government pays some amount, major part of the salary, and the employer covers at least 150 euros of the salary. The support can be applied in April, and it can be used in 3 months and only for 2 months. So if you have March, April, and May, then the entrepreneur can decide whether they use it for March and April, or March and May, or April or May. So this is not ongoing support. It's just to recover from this spring. Another kind of measure that the tax office has come up is that you still have to do the declarations, you still have to submit annual reports, you still have to pay taxes if possible. But if some company is not able to pay its taxes, then what tax office does is that it doesn't calculate any interest on the tax debt. Tax office also encourages that if somebody already sees that they have the tax amount to be paid, but they they are not able to meet and pay this debt, then the tax office encourages to contact the tax office, and you can actually defer the debt payments. You can have the installment plan agreed with tax office. So the tax office also is quite open in order to hear out what are your problems, and Estonian tax office especially is really friendly towards entrepreneurs, and they are ready to find solutions that would actually help entrepreneurs. They are not here to kind of push you more or create tensions in addition to this current situation. Also, what tax office doesn't share publicly information about who has tax debts, because there would be certainly many companies that might have it, and it wouldn't give like a really good overview of the normal situation. So that's why they have postponed informing that this company is a debtor and this company is a tax debtor. So which is also kind of like a good measure. There are also discussions about social tax holidays or social tax changes, but these haven't been agreed yet, so we are waiting for the information. And then we have this kind of foundation called Credex. And this foundation usually grants or guarantees loans for private persons and entrepreneurs. So Credex has come up with additional guarantees. For instance, if a business needs a loan, but bank doesn't give you a loan to your business, then you can turn to Credex. They have new loan products for those who have been turned down by banks. And they also give additional guarantees. So if investment amounts go over millions, then they actually raise this guarantee limit from the previous times. So these are the measures of Estonia. Moving on to the UK. So in very general, it's kind of the same. that the tax office and government is providing support. There's a job retention plan, and this is helpful for employers to help them to pay salaries for employees. In UK, fortunately, on government website, all these support options are on one place. So later on, we will share also the link there, so you can read more and see whether it would apply to your company or whether you could apply for some grant. But UK tax office has done HMRC, Her Majesty's Revenue Collection. They actually have deferred VAT and income tax payments. It means that when company submits the VAT declaration and the company needs to pay VAT to the government, then the payment doesn't have to be done right away. If a company can, then we suggest to do it, because it's better to keep the economy going. But if a company is not able, doesn't have the money to pay the tax, then the VAT declaration and the payment of the VAT that is deferred for 3 months. Then we have also if an employee is on vacation, is not on vacation, is sick because of the coronavirus, then government also supports to pay the sick pay or sick leave pay for employees. Then we have the states, which is self-employed. So it's self-employment income support scheme, and this is for self-employed people. If they lose all their income due to the coronavirus, then they can apply for the support under this measure. Next thing is business rates holiday. Basically, all the restaurants and little shops who have been forced to close down don't have to pay the business rates tax. It's a tax which is collected if they are in business, but right now, if they are not, then they obviously cannot pay the business rate tax. It's a local tax, so it's local governments are collecting that. But there will be kind of like holidays is not a good word in that sense, but they have a possibility that they don't have to pay this tax if they have been forced to close down their shops and restaurants and so on. And also there are several cash grants, and these are for retail businesses, hospitality businesses, leisure businesses, so everything, all these business areas that are affected by the current situation. All right, and moving on to Finland. Here again, the same applies, that the tax office and the government provides the supports. In Finland, the tax office, Vero, is giving extensions on tax payments, but it's not automatic. People or business owners have to ask for it. So, and the other thing that is really important is that the Finnish tax office doesn't set any penalties. Usually it is in normal circumstances, if a company doesn't do declaration or annual report on time, then there will be an automatic penalty. Nobody's asking questions, just the government sends out the penalty. But because of the current situation, then one of the measures is that the tax office doesn't set automatic penalties, which is very good. So 1 second. And in Finland, the penalties are not also like 100 euros or so; they are like 500 euros, and so it's a quite good measure there. Another thing that Finland has done, the government has given funds to enable entrepreneurs to access free business advisory. There's a Business Finland kind of foundation or group that actually provides the advice for free, and government gave them more resources so that they could actually consult more founders, business owners in the current situation. And of course, there are support for employers to pay the salaries, to pay the sick leaves. In Finland, it's the employment regulations are very strict and they are very employee favored. It means that if an employer wants to lay off people or needs to change salary amounts, then it's much more complicated than, for instance, in Estonia. In Finland, they have trade unions, which are really strong, so everything is really employee favored. And for the employer or the founder, this can be quite, it can create another level of complexity because you're struggling, you are trying to save your business, but at the same time, you don't have any possibilities to actually be flexible and restructure or reorganize your business. But yeah, the support for employers is also, besides the monetary side, is also like giving more flexibility in laying off people and so on. And so before we start with your questions, so in conclusion, like not depending where your company is registered or what the business you do, then what we want to say is that very important is to maintain liquidity. We are all connected, so it's the ecosystem. If I do well and pay my invoices to my suppliers and my clients pay to me, then I actually don't survive alone, but I also make sure that my suppliers will survive this and that my clients are also in a good situation. Of course, cutting costs is something that nobody can avoid. But I would also say that it's really important to cut the nice to have costs, but everything that you can keep in the company, then keep it. Because again, the ecosystem, and if we all try to maintain the normal activities, then perhaps we don't see that big of a plummet in the economy. Another way is support your clients. If you don't have new clients, then see what your existing clients are doing. How could you help them? There are so many mentoring and volunteering work going on and so on. So keep an eye, be there for them as well. And of course, notice business opportunities. We have a lot of problems right now that need to be solved. So perhaps this is something that you could help out. Perhaps you have an idea or business model that would actually bring the world out of it and to the next level. So there is definitely a shift in the world, and well, we just have to adapt, and we have to kind of thrive from this situation, not only surviving. And I guess this is it from my side, and we are open to questions. And I will. So, Varun, do you also have? Can you also join?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here.
All right. You can also turn on your video, then we can see you. And let's see, we have some questions. So,
yeah, it's on. Yeah.
Okay, so let me go to the questions. And we have a question: in which country would you recommend starting a company at the moment? So taking into account what we know, I would say that UK is the best option right now, because first of all, you don't need anything to start a company there. It's also a really good market, big market, and the company is ready in one day. So within one day, you would actually be ready to start your business. So it's quite good option. With Estonia, if you don't have the e-residency card, then you would have to wait for that, and it's not very clear whether you could travel to pick up the card or not. But if you have the card, then Estonia is also a really good option. And if you have time and you would actually want to do the business in Finland mostly, then of course Finland as well. But all of these options, there's no right or wrong answer. It all depends. It all depends on your business needs and what are your goals eventually. Do you, Varun, want to add to this question as well?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's just better to have the company in Estonia because everything's digital. So while it may take you a bit longer right now to get your e-residency card, which is only about a month, it's not that long. You know, the value of having that and having a company remotely, and then having all the you know, cost benefits and perhaps even a tax benefit if your company is really considered a corporate resident in Estonia, I think that's more valuable in the longer term. But then again, you know, depending on how things happen in the UK, also your company being based in the UK can have higher credibility at times. I think it really depends on your business model. You know, if you have a UK-based company or you have a company in Estonia. So yeah, it depends really what you're doing. Financial services, maybe UK is better than Estonia. So yeah.
And actually, we have also a question about what exactly do you mean by restructuring? You mean if I have a company in Spain, I should start another one in Estonia and start activities with that? So I guess you can take this question, Varun.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so that's exactly what it means, because if you have a company based in Spain or Germany or anywhere else right now, there might be certain processes which still, while your business might run, you will need to do on paper, or there might be some declarations, or there might be the possibility that you can't really move, and also getting access to digital banking services can be sometimes hard. So yes, absolutely, have a company in Estonia and really start using that, and kind of either immediately, you might be able to do it immediately right now because anyway business is slow, or gradually transition over from having a company elsewhere to having a digital company which is based in Estonia, you know, or Finland or the UK, or whatever you might prefer. So yeah, that's what restructuring means, because it'll bring down your costs, it'll bring down you know, cost in terms of money, and also bring down your costs in terms of the time you spend managing your company versus the time you spend really trying to do your core business, whatever that might be.
Next question is, I have a company in Estonia and I want to use these measures that you talked about. Do you help with that? Can I contact one office? Yes, of course, you can turn to us with all your questions. Even if we cannot help you, then perhaps we know where to send you, whether it's some website or whether it's another law firm that could help you out. But basically, we are keeping a close eye on the measures in Estonia as well, and we are also training our accountants and our tax consultants are based on this topic as well. So we want to be able to support you if you have any questions related to this this situation. And what does it mean to your company? So this is the most important part, that if you feel that you need somebody to discuss the situation and see what it does, then accountant is actually a really good partner, because accountant can also give the advice on the financial side, like if there's not enough cash flow anymore, what are the possibilities that you could take, and so on, so on. So yeah, do seek advice from your accountant, from us, and so on. Okay, so we have a question from Moonish. I have a company in Estonia and operations in North India. Would like to plan my operations in a way that my tax liabilities in India are okay, I think that you don't want to pay taxes in India, right? Could harness the tax benefits available minimum, okay. Minimum in India, and could harness tax benefits available in Estonia, and a bit confused about what I should, and more importantly, what I should not do. Yeah, that's true. But as I understand, Monish, then you actually reside in India. You are living in India as well. You're a tax resident there. Is that correct? Yeah. So Monish is tax resident in India. So it's not that easy to actually move your tax residency from India to Estonia, because you run the company from there. And it basically means that you would have to pay all the taxes in India based on Indian regulations. The only way to move companies' residence is actually to move to Estonia. But Varun can pitch in here, because he's in Estonia, like running the company usually from Estonia.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this applies to any case, and your company, you might have it anywhere in the world. But if you have a company which is based in one place, or even wherever you're based, and you are based in a certain place, then the company might generally be considered a corporate resident of wherever you are based most of the time. However, this can be different if you're traveling often and you're based in multiple locations, or you may have most of your customers that aren't based in India and most of them are based outside of India. In certain cases like that, you can be considered an Estonian corporate resident as a business, and that means that the corporate tax rules of Estonia would apply. But this is a much deeper discussion, not discussion, sorry, this is a much deeper analysis. And this is, I would recommend for every business to do a one-time investment, depending on what their business does, how it's structured, where the customers are, to do a tax consultation. I've done that myself. And the way you can do that is you can even contact one office and they can help you do the entire consultation and figure out where should be your business tax base. And obviously, personal taxation wise, it's quite clear that if you're paying yourself a salary, then you will obviously pay taxes wherever you're generally based. And if that's India, then that's where you pay taxes, right?
Thank you. And I guess we have time for one more question. And we have Martin here who asked, I want to start drop shipping. Can I do it with Estonian company? The answer is yes. When we speak about Estonian or UK companies or Finnish companies, then you can do any business. And there's the only restrictions in sense of field of activities is that it has to be legal. So what we see is with dropshipping business, you have to plan your business model, because doing dropshipping business with multiple platforms, different countries, different currencies would actually mean also a lot of accounting work. So what we see and what we suggest is to start with one market first, and with one marketplace. For instance, either it's Amazon UK or Amazon Germany, see how it goes, and then gradually expand it furthermore. But to answer your question, yes, it is possible to start dropshipping or e-commerce business with Estonian company, also with UK company, and so on. All right, and let's get to one last question. in Estonia, there's no need to have a shareholder from European Economic Area. That's right, in Estonia and in UK, anyone can found the company, anyone can become the director or the board member. So we don't have any restrictions there. The restriction of European Economic Area board member is only in place in Finland for Finnish companies. All right. And so Munish, we will you can be in touch with me. I will click on the next slide. Sorry. So you can see my email, so you can drop me an email and we can see what your situation is and see from there how could we help you with your tax situation. So if you don't have any other questions right now, then our time is up as well. Thank you, Varun, for joining me. I hope that everybody is feeling well, staying healthy. That you are still joyful, cheerful, do the things that you don't have time usually to do, read books and so on, spend time with the families, and let's try to survive this, situation together and support each other as well. Thank you very much for watching, and see you soon again. Bye.